This is VikesNow, and I am Dustin Baker. We are doing the Tuesday, July 26th edition, and it's noteworthy because this is the day where all of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings report to training camp. The rookies came a couple days ago, and now it's the rest of the squad, veterans, coaches, you know the drill. And it's an exciting time for the show because this is our first time going through training camp. We started in March, went through free agency, of course, to draft. Then the dry season, as I've commented on the past 2 months or so. But now we are at actionable items, and that is training camp. So what I want to use the next 15 minutes to go through the predictions. These are my predictions for Vikings training camp. I have 7 of them, and these aren't bold predictions, like KJ Osborne wins the WR2 job or Kellen Mond is the best thing ever and starts over Kirk Cousins. I'm not doing weird, bold stuff that's destined to be false. I'm doing stuff that you'll probably consider predictable, but at least it's me opining on the topic of stuff that's not necessarily decided. So I'm going to go down the line, and per usual, these are not ranked in order of spiciness or importance or sexiness. This is all shooting from the hip, 7 predictions. You can read more about them on VikingsTerritory.com. I published these last weekend, but I'm going to extrapolate on them verbally if you read the article. So stay tuned. We're going to start right now. The first one is, I believe the starting outside cornerbacks for these 2022 Vikings will be the same as last year, at least towards the end of the season, because Bashaud Breeland isn't on the team anymore. So I am picking Patrick Peterson and Cameron Dantzler to start on the outside with a quick hook, so to speak, to Andrew Booth. It seems that he is healthy. He did not show up on the PUP list, which is good news. But I don't think that he'll have the juice right away to supplant Peterson or Dantzler. A couple reasons for that. So Dantzler, the topic of him, it's not hot button, but it's kind of in the department where some folks think he's really good, and the next-gen stats from the NFL suggest he's a top 10 coverage cornerback. And then there's some Vikings fans that are like, nah, he's all right. I think his stint in Mike Zimmer's doghouse hurt him substantially in terms of the court of public opinion, because there would be no good reason for a coach to let a good defensive player, especially a defensive-minded coach, marinate on the bench. So something was funky, and I think that Dantzler got a bad rap because of it. However, I am optimistic about Dantzler, especially starting this season, and this is a pivotal year for him. We will determine, and he will determine in year 3, if he's going to blossom into a Pro Bowl, nibble at Pro Bowl type of caliber, or if he's just going to be, a cornerback that can play, that can start on a average team. Ultimately, the goal is for him to be upper echelon. He was a third-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Those third-rounders can usually go either way. But I do believe Dantzler will start over Booth, and Patrick Peterson will as well, because he has the resume, the clout, the reputation, the respect to start in this, his 13th NFL season? Now, most of his damage that he's done was done with the Cardinals and in the past. However, Peterson had a blank check to sign pretty much anywhere in the NFL. He may not start in every single spot, but he could have, like Kyle Rudolph, chased rings, sign with the Bucks, sign with the Kansas City Chiefs, some shit like that. Alas, he chose the Vikings. And I don't think he came back just to be some QB3 on an 8-9 team from last year. So those clues there suggest, and I think Peterson played well last year. That's another debate topic. Like, was he good or not? Some folks be like, nah, he wasn't worth it. I think it's because you compare him to the old Peterson, that right now when you have the older, age-wise version, that he's just not quite as sizzling as he once was. But that's how it goes for age. So I believe that Patrick Peterson and Cameron Dantzler will start as the outside cornerbacks, whereas Andrew Booth won't get the job right away. Doesn't mean he's a bust. It just means he'll have to work his way in. Number 2 is my hypothesis that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will add at least one more notable free agent. Ed Ingram, Andrew Booth are finally in the house after 2 months worth of suspense on whether or not they were going to sign their rookie contracts or when it would be. And so the Vikings now have about $9 million, and I believe they'll spend some of it. I had a source clue me in that they offered Ndamukong Suh a 1-year contract, or a contract in general, but the money was too low. Doesn't necessarily mean the Suh sweepstakes is dead, but it does mean that it's paused, and if they want him, reportedly they're going to have to up the ante, and I don't know what they offered him. My guess would be $4 or $5 million, and he's looking for 7 or 8, which they do have in the piggy bank if they want to spring for him. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be Sue, but I think they have $9 million, and that can get a pretty damn good football player, even for 5 or 6 at this point in the offseason or summer now, that you don't necessarily have to break the bank unless you're paying for Riley Reif. Where did that contract come from? He signed for $10 million with the Bears, and he hasn't made that in 3 or 4 years. I digress. But I do think that the new general manager will add one more free agent in that sweepstakes. Eric Ebron, he worked out for the Giants the other day. Sue, who I mentioned, of course, we talk about J.C. Treader every day, but somebody that's more splashy than Sean Beyer, who was the guy, the 90th man on the roster after Nate Stanley was released last week. So I predict one more free agent that'll make you go, oh, okay, this is pretty sweet, rather than some anonymous guy. Number 3, not surprising here, Kellen Mond will officially win the QB2 job. There has to be a coaching staff that examines Sean Mannion's tape on the field, the last 2 regular season games. They look at it, and they say, this wasn't good. Therefore, we're not going to play him again if the situation arises. And I truly believe that the commitment, the fetish towards Mannion was from the old coaching staff. And he might be this fabulous philosopher, whatever the hell he is on the bench, or Cousins' security blanket. That's great. When it comes down to brass tacks and you need a QB2 to enter a game, it better not be Mannion again, because like I said about Garrett Bradbury a couple weeks ago, he isn't good. He's not. So I think the upside of Mond, the modern offense that Kevin O'Connell wants to run, the mobility of Mond, these are screaming, flashing lights that say Mond should be the QB2 over Mannion. Like, there are backup punters that should probably be the QB2 over Mannion. So that's why I'm going to go bold here and say a coaching staff that is brand new will finally realize that, all right, this third rounder from Texas A&M is better than this 6'6" guy who can't move. They have to. Otherwise, I will go mad because I don't get it. Mond wins the QB2 job. Number 4 is Alexander Madison is not cut, or the latest and greatest fad that he'll be traded to the Seahawks. I don't think either one of those happen. Not that he's crazy valuable to the Vikings, but Alexander Madison is a pretty good running back, and we know sure as shit that Dalvin Cook's going to miss at least 2 games. And I just think that there's not a lot of perks to cutting Madison, and I don't think if they traded him, they're going to get anything, because RB2s don't usually fetch trade capital unless you're trading with a weird team like the Rams, who sent a third rounder for Sony Michel last year. I think that Alexander Madison stays put as RB2 because they employ an RB1 who has an injury history. Now, that doesn't mean that Ty Chandler or Kene Nwangu are relegated to the bench. That just means that I think Madison is a better option, in their opinion, if something happens to Cook. He's got more experience, of course, than Kene or Ty Chandler, the rookie. So Madison stays with the team, makes a 53-man roster. It's same old, Cook and Madison, RB1, RB2. Number 5, Lewis Cine wins the free safety job. Now, there is a universe somewhere that would let Cameron Bynum be the starter because, surprise, surprise, he deserves it. He was an unsung performer last year. What was he, a 4th rounder from the 2021 NFL draft when Harrison Smith didn't play against the, was that when the Ravens? Ravens or Chargers? I think it was the Ravens. Bynum looked absolutely phenomenal. And then it wasn't an outlier. And the other snaps that he got, the defensive snaps, he looked good. He was a gamer. When the bright lights were on, he showed up. That should get a sequel. He should be able to audition again for defensive snaps. So I think he will get playing time with the Vikings defense. But Lewis Cine, after all the dust settles, is a first rounder. They've advertised the shit out of him on Vikings social media. So I think Cine indeed wins the free safety job. A, because he's probably a better football player than Bynum. And B, he's a first rounder. But this is a good problem to have because then you have Harrison Smith, Lewis Cine, and Cameron Bynum. And somebody's going to get hurt. You just know it. That's the way this sport works. And it'll be nice to have too much of a good thing at safety and pivot to him rather than Josh Metellus or Mike Brown or Miles Dorn. Seen wins the job. Bynum still gets defensive snaps, but is not formally the starter. All right, number 6 is Jesse Davis, the front runner right now from June minicamp to win the right guard job. I don't think he's going to win that. I flat out don't. He played 2 or 3 years worth of offensive tackle for the Miami Dolphins, a couple years early on in his career at guard, but as of late, he's been a tackle, and I think he was a depth signing ultimately, so a bet hedger. If something happens to Darisaw or to Brian O'Neill, you can plug Jesse Davis in, and it's not Dakota Dozier, who once upon a time played a little tackle. So I believe that all of this, I don't know, it's not even hype really, but the front runner status of Jesse Davis as the right guard heir apparent, I say that very loosely, I don't think it comes to fruition. They signed Chris Reed, who actually played guard for the Colts and did so pretty well. And then they drafted Ed Ingram with a second-round draft pick. And I've said it about 5 times on this show, if you're going to spend that type of draft capital on an interior offensive lineman, start him, play him. Don't let him just sit in the bench. Otherwise, you could have got a guard in round 4 or 5. That's how it works. So I'm torn right now. I don't know who will win the RG battle ultimately between Chris Reed and Ed Ingram, but I think one of them wins it, and then Jesse Davis is the next man up when it comes to reservist snaps, if those occur, for Darisaw. Pretty much anybody on the line. I'm not sure what the plan is with Bradbury if he sucks once again, but I think they have all of this depth, which we're not used to, especially on the inside of the offensive line, that just because Davis was the right guard front runner in June, I don't think we get all the way to the Packers game on September 11th, and he is automatically the right guard. Give me Ingram or give me Reed for my prediction there, and Davis will make the team, but not at right guard. Again, just a theory. I don't have any inside intel. That's my take. And lastly, this one is, of course, Dustin, you bring this up, is the Irv Smith Hype annual Vikings tradition since 2019. It goes through the roof once again. He's going to make a lot of scintillating catches. He's going to look like a wide receiver trapped in a tight end's body, and you're going to say, all right, this is the year that he breaks out. And hell, he probably will. But we're going to do this whole song and dance for the next, 6 weeks, that Irv Smith's going to be just fantastic in this offense. We do it every year. And we're going to do it again because we're guessing he stays healthy this time. He gets an offensive-minded head coach. And he should be a target hog in the middle of the Vikings offense. They've got fabulous receivers on the outside in the slot. Irv Smith Jr. should feast in an offense-first enterprise. So I will go down the line. 7 predictions once again. Patrick Peterson and Cameron Dantzler are your starting cornerbacks. Andrew Booth is the odd man out, at least for a while. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah between now and September 11th adds one more notable free agent that makes you go, I like that move. And not just some dude you've never heard of like Sean Byer. Number 3, Kellen Mond wins QB2 because we can't keep doing this insanity with Mannion. I swear to God, it doesn't make sense. It needs to end, and a fresh pair of brains all over the place should be able to realize this. I realize it on my couch. You realize it too. O'Connell and the guys are going to as well. Number 4, Alexander Madison, all the hubbub about a sexy pick, trendy pick for him to be cut ain't coming true. I think he'll be back. He'll be the RB2. God love him. Lewis Seen, number 5. He is the free safety that starts against the Packers. Andrew Bynum. No, wrong sport. Cameron Bynum will get defensive snaps, but not be the free safety starter alongside Harrison Smith. Number 6, Jesse Davis does not end up starting at right guard. He will back up somewhere, and Chris Reed or Ed Ingram will get the job. And last but not least, all of the hype for Irv Smith Jr. will be back after a 1-year hiatus due to a torn meniscus. That's all I got for training camp predictions, but as camp progresses throughout the week, it'll be a popular topic on this show. I'm going to pick the brains of some of my colleagues, Josh Fry and Janik Eckhart. I think he'll be on the show later this week. That's all I got, and Skol, baby.